Hello, everybody. Just checking with Facebook. I don't have an audio just yet. 1 second, Instagram. Oh, it's showing me I'm live. Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show. My name is Christina Previtt. I am one of 2 lead faculty for modern management of the older adult, our geriatrics curriculum. And we are so excited to be talking today about the CrossFit Games, just like Guillermo talked about on Monday. If you are interested in getting involved with our Jerry team, we have a course coming up in August in Evans. And we have a bunch of courses that are starting in the fall. So if you are interested, I encourage you to take a look at our live map because we have posted a lot of new courses over the last several weeks towards the end of 2021 and going into 2022, obviously respecting some of the COVID guidelines that are going on right now in different areas of the country. If you would rather avoid live courses and go to our online courses, we have 2 online offerings. We have our 8-week Essential Foundations, which starts August 18th, so in about 2 weeks' time. And we also have our Advanced Concepts. So if you've taken our 8-week our Essential Foundations course, then you are eligible to take our Advanced Concepts, and we only run it a couple of times a year, and our next cohort is starting in October. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. This is one of those mornings that reminds me of Home Alone. My daughter didn't wake up until 7:30. She has to leave at 7:50 for her daycare. And so we woke up when she woke up. We were like, we slept in! Like that very classic running through Chicago O'Hare Airport type of morning. But I'm going to take a deep breath and talk about the Masters athletes. I have been in CrossFit in some way or another since 2011. So I guess that kind of puts me in the OG category. It's funny, when I started in 2011, I wasn't an OG. The next Essential Foundations after August 18th is going to be sometime in October. I don't know the exact date, Anushka, but I can get that for you for sure. And so when I was starting in 2011, I was not an OG because the OGs were the ones who were in the garages doing CrossFit in 2009. But it's funny how we've seen this evolution of the sport. So we went from the sport not really being accepted as a sport to the need for where we had a bit of a shift. Like we saw this big rise up with the games. Then we saw this drop where the priority of what was important to the leadership in CrossFit had changed. And then we saw this exit of a really prominent member of the CrossFit staff. And then we're seeing this rising up again of going back to grassroots when it came to CrossFit. However, what is also happening at the same time, which is really exciting, is that the new owner, Eric Reza, is really trying to bring that CrossFit health, that priority, that big goal around changing chronic disease across the world populations and bringing it into the CrossFit Games. And I don't think, like, over the last several years, I feel like the games hasn't gained popularity. I feel like that changed this year. And I think part of that was not only that they had, this amazing set of events, and Matt Frazier had retired and there was all this stuff happening on the individual side of things, but there was a huge emphasis this year on CrossFit health, the adaptive athletes, and the age group athletes. And those are who I want to talk about today. If you watched the individuals and the teams, they were incredible, right? Like to be on event 11 or 12 for the week and, pretty much weekend, and be hitting heavy reps at 405, 275 on the deadlift and doing freestanding handstand push-ups, that is incredible. But I don't think that that's more incredible than some of the things that we were seeing our Masters level athletes do. So really interesting stuff that's come up this year is that, one, the introduction of the 60 to 64 and the 65 plus age group categories were really highlighted this year. And the number of spots, CrossFit kind of didn't know how many people were going to be in those age brackets. So they kind of had this sliding scale of how many people would be eligible, but they ended up having a pretty good showing. And I want to talk about some of the events that was given in the 55 to 59, 60 to 64, and 64 plus age brackets. So their first event was for 55 to 59 was a 3.75 mile run. 60 plus age groups were in the 3 mile run. So 3 mile run. So already event one, we are looking at an event which very typically for older adults is told that this is not what we should be doing, right? How many people get told running is bad for your knees? We have tried to debunk this forever, but look at CrossFit. They're just putting it as their first event, expecting people in the 65 plus age category to do a run for time, which amazing. Then we go into event two, and we're having the 55 plus groups do a 1 rope climb and a deadlift at 315, 195, male to female. And the 60 plus categories doing a rope climb, 20 feet, and 5 deadlifts, 4 rounds for time, 255, 175. And the time cap is 6 minutes. So that event, I'm like thinking, this is incredible to see 65 plus athletes where the standard is that everybody is lifting 255 off the ground, 4 reps. 1, that is amazing. 2, this is a huge grip workout. And if you heard me talk about some of the clinical geriatric syndromes, you know too that grip strength is a big indicator of overall body strength. Not that grip strength in particular, the little tiny muscles in our forearms and the intrinsics of our hands are necessarily driving disease. But we're seeing that, rope climbs are something that I probably wouldn't think, especially from a falls prevention, maybe conservative management piece of things, that you would see age categories 65 plus. And I should have figured out who is the oldest athlete in the 65 plus category, because I think that would be awesome. But we're seeing that is the expected standard. And of course, this is international competition. I absolutely understand that, but it's pushing boundaries. And I think that is just awesome. So in the next event, the next day, they were doing double dumbbell overhead work, sandbag carries, bike ergs, and GHD sit-ups in the 60 to 64 and 65 plus age categories. So not only are we doing floors recovery to an extreme, but we're getting people to go into lumbar extension, which tends to be lost, right? We tend to see a 20 to 30% loss in spinal range of motion as we get older. And then they have to do a sit-up from an elongated anterior core position, which I don't know if you've done a lot of GHD sit-ups, but it is brutal on the core, and I always feel it the next day. And then they have a 300-meter swim. So open water swim, incredible, and they're just doing so amazing. They go into the next day, and here's where I'm even more blown away. The 60 to 65, the 60 to 64 and 65 plus categories started doing chest to bar pull-ups, double unders, and then bar muscle ups, and finished with more ski ergs and double unders. That's awesome. And the 50 to 59 plus didn't even get the chest to bar pull-ups. They had to do bar muscle ups the entire way. So now they're doing advanced gymnastics, maintaining power, strength, core coordination, speed. Like all of these events, like I could just go on and on. The 65 plus category was doing wall walks as one of the final events to have for the master's level athletes. And it's amazing to see. And then we go to the adaptive side, where we're having these incredible feats of strength for individuals with upper extremity, lower extremity, or neuromuscular deficits. And they're throwing, there was a person who had an upper limb amputation who had deadlifted over 500 pounds. It is just incredible to watch these athletes that are just pushing the boundaries of what we can expect as we get older. And so what does this mean for the geriatric clinician? It is amazing. One, I hope that you all look at clips and have them in your back pocket when you have a client who says, Christina, I'm 65 years old. You can't think that I can get up and off the floor. And then you watch these 65 plus athletes who are just crushing it doing bar muscle ups, because that's going to show some explicit positive aging stereotypes that I think are so, so important. And we really talk on them in our modern management courses. That's number one. Number two is that we're starting to change the expectation in terms of optimizing reserve. If you have heard Dustin and I talk in the past, or any of our MMOA faculty, because I know Julie and Alex have been on here saying the same message, we are always talking about living long and dying fast, avoiding 1 rep max living, squaring off the curve. And these are all different ways of expressing the fact that we want to stave off any big event of physical inactivity and exercise-induced sedentary behavior, all those types of things that happen as we get older. And so it's really, really important for us to be thinking about these things. And we know that there are some physiological changes that are happening with age. There's a reason why the volume of the events for the master's level athletes is different than the volume that we see for some of our open level athletes. And that's okay. But what we are seeing is that the amount of reserve that we really can optimize is probably bigger than we think. So when we think about strength training, we think about how we have different drivers for physiological strength gain as we get older. That's one thing. We are also seeing that the drivers to change are slightly different, where we have an increase in neuromuscular loss that happens with older age, and that redundancy can be saved or mitigated or maintained a little bit more with strength training and power-based training. So that's really, really important. Sorry, my dogs are looking up at the front door, and I'm afraid they're going to start barking on camera. That's something that is not new for me. So what we're seeing is that these types of adaptations are probably more related to physical inactivity and sedentary behavior than we've previously thought. If we have athletes who are in the 65 plus category who are very easily deadlifting in the 250 plus range, then that might be something that we can start to expect, or have a ceiling that is much higher than we had originally anticipated, which is really exciting to think about. And so when we look at the literature and how does this relate to an older adult who is more sedentary, what we can see is that when we think about drivers for loss of muscular strength and power, we see that we have a start of loss around the age of 50 that accelerates around the age of 70. And when we start looking at masters powerlifters and masters weightlifters, and now we're going to have to start looking at masters CrossFitters, the slopes of those lines in terms of the physiological losses tends to be the same. And power is lost faster than strength. So our Olympic weightlifting performance is going to be lost faster than our powerlifting performance, for example. And so that's really, really important to consider. But what we're seeing in these athletes is that, just like I talked about how physical inactivity and sedentary behavior is a driver of, or a multiplier of aging, we're seeing that lack of these things is a really important part for maintaining strength and maintaining these things and optimizing that reserve. So what not only are these athletes just demonstrating how truly incredible they are as athletes, and how maintaining that identity long-term throughout their life is probably a really important and really wonderful thing to be trying to think about. But we also can start thinking about how we can really optimize reserve as early in our life as possible. And by doing that, we're going to be able to square that curve and have that optimal reserve so that when we hit that accelerator at 70, where we are seeing these losses that happen more readily, unfortunately, in terms of the slope of the line of physiological loss, we have more reserve there. And these athletes make me want to be them when I turn 60 or when I turn 65, so that I'm competing and I am showing that I have that reserve too, as I get into later stages of my life. All right. That is it for me today. I just wanted to gush about all the older adults that are crushing it and really demonstrated how incredibly talented they are. The adaptive athletes who just showed how incredible they are and resilient and capable, and starting to push that paradigm around what optimal healthy aging can look like for a person who wants to continue competing in athletics, or what is capable for individuals who have had these traumatic or non-traumatic neuromuscular issues. So really, really incredible to see. I hope if you didn't get a chance to watch them, that you go back. I know the live streams are on YouTube and you can go back and watch these athletes compete and use it as an example of successful aging with your clients, because man, they are absolutely incredible. Woman, they are absolutely incredible. And we can just learn so much from them. All right. Have a wonderful Wednesday, everyone. And we'll talk soon.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.